Hey, everybody, how's it going? This is Rob Turley, your host at Down the Rabbit Hole podcast, a now award-winning podcast. Thank you, Top Sales Magazine, for the Top Sales and Marketing Podcast Award. Won the bronze medal. Totally incredible. And thank you, White Rabbit Intel, for sponsoring this lovely podcast. Fantastic. Appreciate it. I'll talk about that stuff later, though. Now, I want to introduce a special guest of mine. His name is Nate Sroor. Awesome guy. He's with Pneuma, it's a new company. And my God, it's just ridiculous what he's done in such a short period of time, being such a young, he's a 23-year-old CRO, which I was like, what? When I first met him, I was like, yeah, no. And I mean, I'm a 26-year-old CEO, for God's sakes. And what, people with $100 million companies come to me to consult? Probably the same with you too. So that's the thing, is that age does not matter. It matters at what your skill is, what your intention is, what your drive is, what your purpose, your mission, your values, and how well you can solve a problem really is what it boils down to. So it's incredible stuff. I'm happy to have him here. Today we're going to be talking about going against the grain. I'm going to let that sink in real quick. You can interpret that in your head in whatever sick way you want, but I'm just going to let it sit there while Nate introduces himself formally, and just keep thinking about that. Then we'll jump into it and we'll start making sense.
I love the intro, Rob. Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure. Quick rundown of myself. Like Rob mentioned, current CRO of Pneuma Media. I'm 21 years old though. I've got a couple of years until I'm 23. So let me make some millions.
21. Holy shit. I was off.
Yeah, no, quick. I'll give my brief backstory. Started off, went straight into business at 18, had a valet and detailing company here in Milwaukee at the airport for about a year and a half, 2 years. COVID killed that business entirely. And then I switched to this whole, hey, let's make some money online, laptop warrior lifestyle thing. Bounced around a couple different agencies, tried to get my feet wet in a couple different things, ended up getting connected with David, the founder of Pneuma. Started out as just a regular old sales SDR rep there. Worked my way up throughout 2021, crossed the $1 million in revenue mark in December of 2021. And now I'm the current CRO, managing all client relationships, partnerships, building up a sales team, so on and so forth. And I'm also a partner in a business called Blank Slate Media. We do high volume video editing for both agencies and influencers alike. So
now question though, with that million, I want people to be aware of this. You joined this company halfway through the year, correct?
Joined Pneuma started in, what would that be, October of 2020. I joined February 2021.
So the company started October 2020. You joined February 2021. We're now at the new year, so January 2022. So from February, 4 months after the company started, you joined in, and then by the end of December, you brought in $1 million in revenue.
Yeah, so we'll clarify a little bit. I don't want to give myself too many props, but we did $1 million in 2021 in total. From the time I joined, fully was onboarded initially in March. It was the first full month. I did about $850,000 from March until end of year.
Just being anywhere close to 7 figures with a business that just starts is insane. That's insane. Usually, companies don't make a fucking cent until after year one.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Or they make a couple $1,000 here and there for just like odd jobs that they do, kind of dipping their toes in the market and everything. That's very, very impressive. And that's coming from another founder who's a young founder. That is very impressive. Like I didn't make $1 until after year one.
I think
we had to build technology to get there, like actually build an entire fucking AI. So that was part of it. No, it's good. Good on you. Now, going against the grain, if that's sunk in deep enough, see, 21-year-old CRO, that is totally against the grain, because anybody in the right fucking mind would not hire someone like that. No. That's insanity. If someone said that to me, I'd be like, and what the fuck drugs are you on?
People don't want to hire me until they actually get on the phone with me, and then the magic gets worked out. But I think, I mean, to quickly wrap up your point on, hey, how do we do so much fucking revenue in such a short amount of time? This podcast is titled Going Against the Grain. We looked at every other fucking digital marketing agency out there, which I tell people this all the time. There's a million different companies out there that you could work with to do the same shit we do, but it's how we do it. and the result, not only the results, but the experience we give our clients working with us. That's why we were able to do so much. And that is the definition of going against the grain.
I had a statistic. This was from, oh God, it might have been 2018, 2017 or 2018, that there are 400,000 marketing and advertising agencies in the US alone.
Oh God.
What?
That was before COVID, and everybody in their
Well,
mind
most of them die is the thing. Most of them die. So I don't know what it's at now. It's probably going to hover around the same area, in my opinion. I don't know. We'd have to look that up because I think it would be interesting. But
Yeah.
what we're going to be talking about here is that someone like him could do that type of a thing for your company and grow it and set up a structure, an entire revenue operation structure that is effective. Age doesn't really matter. There are a lot of really talented millennials out there. And I know that the older folks listening to this, you're going, those fuckers don't work. Yeah, no, I'm one of them. And literally there's no off switch. All I do is work 24/7, like 120 hours a week. You cannot get me to stop. Like I'm a sick fuck. So that's the thing, is that there are good ones out there. How do you find them, and how do you bring them or attract them toward your company so that you can get this brand new, like still has that new car smell or new 20-year-old smell.
20-year-old smell. Interpret that how you want.
Produce more than your veterans, if not equal to your veterans. What do they look like? How do we find them? And what is that all about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think even from personal experience at the most basic level, it's the people who, like me, to use myself as an example, who you want to come into your company, the ones who are hungry, know they don't know shit, are willing to eat shit to learn what they don't know, and then still have the capacity and, quite frankly, the drive to keep growing with your company. A lot of those people, the ones who are quote unquote made or have that mindset, they don't know your opportunity exists, right? If you're a founder of any business, it could be a marketing company, it could be a brick and mortar location, it could be anything these days. A lot of the kids who, like myself, I was planning, I didn't always have this business mindset. In fact, the first 18 and a half years of my life, I was a completely different person. I always had that thing that I knew. And I think a lot of people, whether they're my age or a little bit older, they know what I mean when they have something like, okay, I'm destined for more here. They just don't know anything apart from that. You don't know what you don't know.
That's an entrepreneurial mindset, and that's a very small segment of the population. For example, I have that. For example, my business partner has that, and he's in his mid 40s. It never goes away.
No, it never goes away. But I think more importantly, a lot of people don't even know they have it. Like they might have the awareness of, something like, I feel like I should do more, but you don't, what I said before, you don't know what you don't know. Like for me, I had that thing and I ended up I was just busting my ass. And I think to my first point of how do you hire talented millennials, whether they're working at the bar you go and take a client to when you're about to close a deal, or you find them on LinkedIn commenting on all of your posts, trying to get your attention, you have to be able to spot the hustle. And that doesn't have to be in exactly what you want them to do. Like if you're looking for a sales hire, just because they don't have, cut and dry SDR experience doesn't mean they wouldn't be a good fit for what you're doing. They just don't even know your opportunity exists.
And they're totally moldable too. At that point, you could just analyze like their psychology, or you can analyze like what type of personality they have, what they're good with, those intrinsic skills that they have. And if they're a hard ass worker, they're going to do everything that it takes to get there because they're used to getting yelled at and doing like some sort of landscaping job where they're just hauling ass all day. They could be doing so much more. If they're not aware of that, I'm destined for more. If you haven't self-actualized that drive into something that makes sense to actually build yourself, that's when it starts creating those problems where people are just busting their ass their entire life and actually go nowhere. They've never self-actualized it. No one has ever lifted them up either.
No, and I think it really takes, whether it's a colleague, a friend, or you as a business owner, to take some kid who could be a relative, could be somebody, again, you see on LinkedIn who's always commenting or always posting, whatever it is, and going, hey, I'm going to pull you out of the weeds of life for a second. Have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about learning this skill? Have you thought about doing sales? Have you ever done any sales? Because for me, and works, I know this works because others who I've both worked for and just talked to this about have done the same thing. You take a kid who is busting his ass at whatever he's doing, and you say, hey, I see potential in you. You don't know shit right now, and I know you don't know shit right now, and you know you don't know shit right now. But have you thought about doing X, Y, and Z? Not only could you make more money and you'll just, increase your skills, but it'll make you a better person. Like, have you thought about this? Has this thought even crossed your mind? Because I think for a lot of times it hasn't.
And
And
they'll
not many
respect you.
depth.
They'll respect you too, because usually leaders are worried about millennials being disrespectful, not doing the work. If you find them like that and you do that, I see something in you. I see potential in you. You are now a hero figure in their mind. They will do anything for you because you told them. You're the one who unlocked that whole different realm of thinking. So they look at you as their champion. They look at you as their hero. So they will do whatever you say. They will practically worship you because you're the one who brought them into the actual working world where they could provide value and not just do grunt work or labor or whatever it may be that they were doing with like a real job, which is incredible. Then you have the millennials on the other side that went to some really good college, and they feel like they're entitled to have that professional job, and that's the difference. Those are the ones that don't work, which is incredible. I went through a private school, $250,000 education. I always had that drive, and that's why I worked 40 hours a week professionally, literally in my profession, while I was in college.
And I think somebody like you and I mean, same, I had my first 40, 50 hour a week job while I was still in high school because I just had that drive. So do you take the two ends of the spectrum? Just because somebody I think this is where a lot of people, like, again, how to find good millennials, just because they went to Columbia or because they went to NYU doesn't mean they're going to be fucking good at whatever you're hiring.
It doesn't mean that they're going to be driven, have passion, or have the desire to do the work.
No, and all it means is they were able to do what was necessary to get to check the box. It doesn't show anything about their work ethic. It doesn't show anything about their drive. It's just checking a box. And I think the ones who, again, it could be, hey, you go to the military for 4 years. I almost look at people who did that and then try and come back to the professional world. They have, quite honestly, the most unique perspective out of anybody.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I didn't go to college or the military, so I have a different perspective. But if you go and put yourself in a situation that sucks for a long time and you take leadership lessons, teamwork lessons, you're anything but entitled, at least to my knowledge, when you come out of the military, the people I know, and you take that into a professional setting. I mean, there's people who've made, been in the military, career military people, and they come back and they make millions in the private sector. Why? Because of the skills that you learn over there. So the point with me saying all of this is going against the grain. Look at people who are doing it differently, because to be honest, Rob, like, if they're doing that for a reason, they may not have a strategy. They just know, okay, I don't want to do the normal thing. It's not for me. I don't want to go to 4 more years of school and drown myself in debt. So I'm going to go work this retail sales job, or I'm going to go get a landscaping job because I got to pay the bills somehow. That shows, in my opinion, hey, this person is willing to, bury their head in the sand and fucking work, even though they don't know what they're working for yet. And then you, the CEO, the founder, goes, hey, to your point, you're their hero. I mean, the guy who did that for me, I've told him I could pay you millions of dollars, and it will never equate to the value you gave me in my life.
That's right.
The person, and then the kid on the other end of that spectrum, the 26-year-old, however, will do anything for you. He'll bend over backwards for you.
And it just shows how closed the doors are for private sector or even public sector businesses for younger people to come in where, okay, you need a degree, but when you have a degree, you don't really have that drive. Most of them don't, just like we talked about, except for a select few like myself. Then you have, okay, they went to this college, but they have no work experience. Okay, you need at least 3 years of work experience to get this entry-level job. Okay, and why would you be going into an entry-level job if you have 2 to 3 years of work experience? Wouldn't you be going and moving up to the mid-level? So people for an entry-level job need work experience, where if you've never had work experience, how the hell are you supposed to get into an entry-level job? It's totally contradictory, and they're not likely to hire them and bring them in with their potential and highlight their potential. So that you could see how there's an issue with businesses where all this talent is going to waste to, like, landscaping companies, to Burger Kings. It's all going there when it should be going into the actual like business, because those are the ones that are like sponges. While they're still willing to learn like that, why not teach them your business? Literally teach them your business, and they will do anything within that business to the best of their possible capability, and are willing and able to learn it all without complaining about that's not my job title.
And I think to your point, like the barrier to entry for a lot of these entry level jobs is so high on paper. Like I could look at an entry level job paying 35 grand a year and I probably wouldn't qualify for half of it. And I mean, 35 grand a year, like why the hell would I ever want to do that based on where I'm at today? I think Rob, you said something really good. It could be personality tests. It could be Myers-Briggs assessment. I mean, there's a lot of ways out there to be able to go a level deeper on people versus just,
but they are illegal to use for hiring and HR purposes.
That is true. I do have family in HR, so that's actually a very good point. But I think whether it's that or even just as simple as, I think in my opinion, we're both sales guys, so we might be a little biased here, but you can learn a lot about somebody face to face, having a conversation with them. Something like this, you can learn.
Yeah, part of like the what the final interview for my company is, if you were to interview to work for us. The final interview is that we take people from every type of division in the company and we put them into a group, into a meeting, like 6 people, and then we put the candidate into that meeting, and there is absolutely no agenda. The candidate's like, what's the agenda? Because if you're trying to act professional and trying to get the spot and be the person and all that stuff, you're being a very fake version of you. We just dump them in there, and then they say, well, what are we doing? Nothing. What's up? Then they start talking. All that goes out the window. Their whole plan goes out the window. They become themselves. They get to know the team. They see if they fit with that culture. We have similar values, aspirations, drive, all that stuff. Get to know them, similar things that we like to do, maybe hobbies, whatever else. And then you start talking to them about, what are your passions? What do you do? Like, why are you here? What makes you want to even work here? Like, why are you here? And then you get the truth, and you get the unvarnished, uncut, and raw reason why they are talking to you to get a job and what their purpose is and where they want to end up in life. And that right there is the most powerful last interview that we have, that we've been able to come up with.
I love that for a lot of reasons, but I think it, like you said, it breaks down the wall that they came into the conversation, or the front that they're putting on for this conversation. And I think, again, part of the reason, Pneuma, we did $1 million in about 13 months of business. Why? Culture is a huge, huge portion of that. I mean, we had an executive summit in September where myself, CEO, co-founder, CTO, operations, marketing, like director of copy, everybody who is quote unquote in a leadership position got together. And yeah, we tore the business down from scratch and poked holes in it and did a lot of things, but we also just vibed. Like, we were in Colorado, we went on a hike, we went out, we got dinner, we got drinks, like we did the whole 9. And the people who saw us there, we actually had a waitress say to us, are you guys like best friends from like a hometown, or like what are you doing here? And we're like, I mean, I've known these guys online for 6 months, but I just met them yesterday.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
When you're trying to find young talent, again, it's there, but do they mesh with the culture of your company? I think it's very easy to tell. And quite frankly, if you have a shitty culture in your company, and a lot of people don't want to be honest about that, usually it's the bigger box corporations that have that. People who are skilled, especially in sales, are in such high demand that they're not going to want to work for a company with bad culture anyways. So save yourself both the time, cut that cord, and turn your attention to the real problem, not the position you're hiring for, but the fact that you don't have a good culture. That's not going to attract top talent, whether they're 25 years into their career or didn't even know what a website was until 3 weeks
and not having the ability to move around or to do full cycle sales. Like in enterprise sales, it's really, there's no real talent in it. You just pass it on to the next thing and all that stuff. And you're limited. You're controlled by quotas, where if you actually do a proper sales process and are damn good at what you do, you would never hit quota and you'd be fired for it.
Yeah.
Literally. It's saying that if you're a really good salesperson, you don't belong here. And no room to move. Oh, you need to work as that type of salesperson for 2 years, then you get a promotion to a slightly higher level, then work for another 4 years, and then you get promoted to maybe a director, and then you get, so there's time frames on it. No. If someone is overperforming and they're qualified for the job, give them the fucking job. It's that simple.
100%. That's where I think kind of a second piece of this that I want to talk about is it's not just about selling what is in front of you today, whether it's the opportunity, the pay, the commission, whatever it is. It's about, again, not only is how it's going to benefit you personally, but what does that roadmap look like? I mean, when I talked to David at Pneuma on a Saturday morning in almost a year ago now, I had no idea what I was getting into, but I knew it was going to be another sales thing. But we talked, and yes, I started out as an SDR, a true SDR, my own book of business. I have to generate my leads, nurture my leads, close the deals, like everything. And I knew I was going to start there. But what I also knew, and David the founder said this without saying it, but I knew if I fucking crushed that position, not only would I make all the money that I wanted to make, but I would have the opportunity to move into the role that I truly wanted, which for me, I might be good at day-to-day sales, but I'm a big people person. I love management. I love leadership. I love running a team. I had a team of 8 when I was at the airport, and I want to get back to doing that. I knew that was what I wanted long-term. David knew that that's what he wanted somebody to do long-term. Did he know it was going to be me? Not initially, but once I proved that, hey, I'm not just some 20-year-old kid at the time who talks a big game on a Saturday morning, but doesn't actually show up and do the work, 2 months in, and he goes, hey, I want you to be the sales director. I want you to eventually be CRO. Like I've seen what you can do at a small scale. I want to give you the opportunity to take on more responsibility, to start leading a team, to become more of a project manager, like whatever that looks like in your role. If I hadn't had the, hey, good job at step 1, here's what steps 2, 3, 4, and 5 look like, I probably wouldn't be talking to you because I wouldn't have stayed at Pneuma because there was no incentive for me to grow with the company. And I think David, you could ask him this. I don't even know if he was doing it at the time, but he sold me so hard on the vision that he had of, hey, we start here. Here's where I want to be February 2022. Here's how I see you fitting into the puzzle. That is what kept me at Pneuma and what has allowed us to be so successful. It's selling.
It's also when making an employee a part of something, there's high churn rate, high turnover rate.
Oh, it's
with salespeople, or even just not even salespeople, just jobs in general with millennials. High turnover rate. Why do they turn over? Because they're not given the opportunities, and they say, no, you don't get a promotion until like year 4. You don't get this, you don't get that, you don't get this, you don't get that. You're not that. You can't be that. You can't move over there. You can't do that type of thing. That's the thing, is that it's like, okay, how about you stop telling me what I can't fucking do, and we can see what I can do. And if I can't do it, guess what? We know. And that's the thing. It's giving them the opportunity to actually drive something and to go somewhere. They will take it, and they will take it with as much care, respect, and responsibility as possible to do it. And if they can't do it, they can't do it. They'll understand that, and then it's done. But it's blocking them from self-growth is the major reason why millennials literally leave companies like they're fleeing a burning fucking building. Okay? That's what's going on, is that you need to loosen up and let them grow, because they will grow fast. And I didn't grow that fast. Yeah, because you growed slow. Get over yourself. Let them grow at the speed that they can grow, and you need to test the waters and take some risks to get there.
100%. And if you say to talking what we were talking about initially with, hey, how do I have the drive? Like, how do you find them? Like, how do you separate the lazy ones from the unlazy ones? It's as simple as giving them that opportunity. If I'm a CEO, right, and I hire a salesperson, and I say, hey, I need you to do this for me. I need you to do this task. Hey, I need you to go hop on this call with me. I need you to make this proposal. And I'm testing them. I'm testing to see what they want to do. And if they give me pushback, or, oh, I'll deal with it later, or that's not my job title, like whatever the fucking bullshit excuse is, and if you didn't know this already, I mean, you got to get better at kind of spotting those things, but you can sniff the bullshit out when you test them. If you test them and they go, again, go do this task for me, hop on this call. Oh, I know it's, 8:30 p.m. at night, but can you help me out with this? Or do you have 5 minutes to talk? Like, you do those little tests. Based on how they respond, will be very clear what their potential upside is. And I know that's been used on me in the past with certain things where it's like, I know because I've been through this. If I don't do this, it's going to fuck me in the long term. I'm not perceived as motivated, as driven, as, reliable. Cause I think that's the big thing, especially
They may find it unethical though. Like if someone asks you to work after hours, that's technically unethical. You shouldn't do that. Except if you just do it once as a test, I don't see the problem in that, just to see if they would, not to use them, because usually that goes into, work late every night, screw you. It turns into that whole thing. Then they make you a freaking worker bee, raising a cattle for slaughter, because as soon as you get burnt out, they're like, see you later, because you don't want to come off as that, because that creates red flags as well for employers. And if you do that as an employer, stop, because you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah, that's not how you attract fucking top talent by any means. But and I want to say something on that, because I think from the employee's perspective, I mean, you got to set a boundary. If you're out, or your boss knows it's 10 p.m. at night and you're in the East Coast, and just because it's 7 p.m. in California doesn't mean he can hit you up. You got to set a little bit of a boundary there. But at the same time, they're still testing you. They're still testing to see what you're willing to do for them. And that, I think, is a really good way to be able to spot, hey, what is this person going to turn into?
I feel like this psychology that we're going over right now is going to be like literally an epiphany for the older generations or the business owners and employers that listen to this podcast. They're going to say, holy fucking shit, I've never thought about it this way. Is that, oh my God, I've been making this mistake, or oh my God, this is how, why haven't I thought of, it's diving into, because we're both millennials, diving into the brains of two millennials that went from absolute nobody to a top leadership C-level position on their own.
Yep. Yeah, man, it's been crazy, because I think the one thing I want to say on something you said earlier, of they kind of get locked in. You lock them in. Yep, you got to go 4 years at an SDR and then you get a promotion. It's, dude, I don't know what you were doing 4 years.
Everybody grows at a different rate.
That and when you see the ones that grow quickly, you can't box them in, because, like, dude, 4 years ago, I mean, I was not in business. I was still in high school, for that matter, but I was working at a Mexican restaurant 25 hours a week doing who even knows what. Like, that's a long time, especially when you're talking to somebody who only has 20, 25, 26 years of life. I mean, 4 years, dude, that's a lot of fucking time. You know what can get done? Somebody who grows, quick like we do, and wants to adapt and wants more responsibility.
17.5% of their entire life at that point.
Dude, and it doesn't take a rocket science to do that math of like, wait, this company, they're not even treating me right. They're not giving me opportunity, and they want me to commit all this time and all of my energy to them. Fuck that. People have way too many options these days. They don't have to work for you. They could go do a million different things. You can make money doing whatever these days. So when you want to find somebody, whether it's sales, project management, marketing, you want to find a millennial or somebody who's motivated to fill that position, use what Rob and I talked about here, because I think you'll be surprised at what you find. And if you're a guy who's about impact like I am, you're going to change a lot of people's lives doing that.
Speaking of which, and back to like the military thing and all that, I've got somebody, if you're hiring right now for like marketing position, I got someone who wants to do an entry level where he was Marine Corps 7 years and then a police officer for 6 years, and he's sick of the shit.
And somebody like that, I could look on paper and be, they have no experience in my industry. What kind of perspective do you think that guy has going through Marine Corps training and then being a beat cop or a detective or whatever position he was at for 7 years? Just because he didn't learn, marketing skills, quote unquote. I'm curious, what is his perspective on dealing with high stress situations, dealing with, a boss or a manager who's pissed off, or a client who is pissed off? Like, I'd be curious to see somebody like that. Hey, what is your perspective on this? And I think to anybody who's, don't want to use the term older, but Gen X, listening to this podcast, what people like you and I, Rob, we grew up with the internet. We grew up in that generation. Just because you could look at us and go, oh, we're lazy. We don't know this. We don't know that. Okay, but what do you know? What do they know that I don't? Just like I can learn something from, every C-suite level executive I talk to. And the best advice I was ever given is be a sponge. But what could you learn as a 57-year-old CEO? What could you learn, or what new perspective could you get, or more importantly, your company get, if you were to hire a motivated 23-year-old, 22-year-old? Like, what could they bring to the table that is missing in your company? Because there is a massive shift of not only wealth happening right now, but power, and everything is one generation's moving out, another one's moving in.
Resignation is nigh, and
Yep.
in the next 2 to 4 years, it is going to be freaking chaos.
And it's going to be hard. It's going to be even harder to find top talent. So if you've been neglecting, hiring quote unquote entry level people, or just bringing in kind of fresh faces to your company, you're going to want to do it sooner rather than later, because you're to your point, the great resignation, people can make money doing anything these days. So why should they work for you? And it's going to be really, really difficult, especially people with experience, to find top talent in 2-3 years because of the way everything is going. So you want to get somebody on your team as soon as you possibly can, because in 2 years, they're maybe already making more money than you. That's how quickly things move in today's world.
Yeah, it's true, especially in the software world. That's 100%. That's always moved quick, though. So now you're talking about they can make money doing anything, and one of your main points is driving revenue online. What do you mean by that? How do you drive revenue online, and what are some of the things that people can do, and I mean businesses would be able to do, to start generating more revenue online without needing to, invent a new product, let's say?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think let's work backwards here, right? The goal is revenue. What do you need to get revenue? You need customers. What do you need to get customers? You need eyeballs. How do you get eyeballs? That's the question. So whatever you're selling, whatever business you are, and Rob, you have a great example here. You work with marketing agencies, SaaS companies, to help them identify their ideal customer at White Rabbit. You have this show. Not sure how many clients of yours, kind of came from this show, but people are talking about you. You're winning awards. You're getting featured in things. That is positive press. It is people seeing your name, seeing your face over and over and over again. And just because they're not ready to buy or become a client today doesn't mean in 6 months they won't. The question is, when they are, who are they going to think of? Like,
That's
good example.
exactly what I try to get into people's skulls, where the high volume sales needs to end now. Stop. The noise is the problem. Every time you double the emails, double the ad budget, double the spend, you are making it worse, not only for yourself, but for everybody else. It's a compounding issue. It's about standing out. Like for example, our tech, I don't want to get in my product or anything, but our tech is built for hyper targeting. And so that you can accurately identify and predict who is most likely to become your next best customer. Literally, that's what it does. So take a list of 1,000 people. It'll shave it down to like, here are the 10 you need to contact. The rest of them are a waste of your time. Instead of going, oh, well, what about the rest of them? Fuck the rest of them. It's done. Now build a relationship, be relevant, and drive well-researched and rehearsed conversations with that person at a human level, not automate to them, a human level, to get to know them, because you already know, we already know that they're a fit. We've already analyzed it. It's done. It's a fit. So now, and then people could, well, they're not ready to buy yet. That doesn't matter. Just like you're saying, build a relationship, stay relevant, keep adding value, stay top of mind, because when they are ready, rather than them going into the active buying cycle, as they call it, and they're shopping around, and that's where all the blood, guts, and fins are flying around in the shark-infested waters with all your competitors. No, that's not where you want to be. You want to be way before that happens. You want to take them off the boat before the shark-infested water is even close. So you have that conversation with them. You build a relationship. You constantly nurture them. And when they're ready, they're not even going to go into the active buying cycle. They're going to pick up the phone and they're going to call you, Nate, and say, hey, Nate, I'm ready. That's the future of sales.
And that's well said. And you're a great example of it. And I think, I don't know if anybody's seen the interview with Jordan Belfort and Grant Cardone. It's hilarious. You should, if you haven't seen it, go listen to it, because it's major perspective shift on all things sales. But to your point of, Cardone is very high volume, high volume, high volume. Everybody's a customer. They either are buying or they're dead. Like
it's inbound marketing. It's that whole theory process, that entire psychology behind inbound marketing is the only way to go. They'll all come to you, and then you just have to sift through the shit. Which, I mean, my tech deal will help with that too. Analyze all of them from your inbound. You get 6,000 a week. Boom. There's 60 that are going to buy. You're welcome.
And, and not to say that doesn't work, but at scale, Belfort is much more to the perspective of, again, build that relationship. And I mean, just because somebody doesn't close the first time you call them doesn't mean that they're not a good fit. They're just not ready to buy right now. And there is no active buying cycle.
Agreed.
If you talk to somebody, I talk to you, Rob, like, hey, I want to do your website. You're like, cool, man. I don't think I need it right now. I go, cool, here's what I'm seeing. And you go, okay, kid, that makes sense. Contact me in 6 months. I'm going to contact you in fucking 3 months with something completely unrelated. That's just me being a genuine human, because I noticed that you really like podcasts and I listened to one that I thought you would find valuable. So I'm going to send that to you. And then you're going to see my name again. And I'm also going to connect with you on LinkedIn, send you a personalized message, so I stay top of mind. And then in 6 months, when I notice nothing's changed and you've also forgotten you even had that conversation, I'm going to come back to you and go, hey, Rob, here's what we talked about 6 months ago. Curious, did you like that podcast or not? And if you're ready to buy then, or even if you're not, when you are, and you're thinking of a website, who is the first person that's going to come to your mind?
It's going to be you.
Are you going to do research on LinkedIn to find a company about it? Or are you going to go, hey, that guy, I had a conversation with him a year ago and he may have forgotten about me because I forgot about him.
Yeah. And then they feel like the dick.
Yeah, then they feel like they're like, wait, of course, that guy, he sent me all this value, and I might have been a little bit of an asshole to him, but let me reach back out, let me see if he's still doing what he's doing.
And
I've had that happen.
How was that done? Without an ounce of automation. I build AI for a living. I am totally against automation, anti-automation, because selling and marketing was not meant to be, well, marketing maybe for distribution purposes, but selling was never meant to be automated. It was meant to be human connection, because people buy from the people they like, trust, and can relate to, period. I want to beat that in everybody's skulls. And it should be a client-centric, relationship-driven approach that is about them and adding value, and not making them the secondary thing, toss them off to the side, nothing. Or if they say, oh, call me in 6 months, I'll be ready in 6 months. People put a task in their CRM to call them in 6 months. Then they literally call them in 6 months. Like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, if I said that to someone, no, call me in 6 months, I'll be ready. They call me and it's 6 months later and they call me on that day. If I even remembered them, I'll be like, oh, look, you remembered to set a task in your calendar, you asshole. Like, I'm not playing that game. What happened to the other 6 months that we could have been talking and figuring shit out?
And it doesn't even have to be about business either. I mean, I've had people who I've genuinely connected with on like a human level, and they go, Nate, listen, this sounds great. I'm not pulling the trigger right now. I'm just not. And then I go, okay. And then, I text them on their fucking birthday, or I shoot them an article about their industry that I saw. And I'm like, this is completely unrelated to anything we've been fucking talking about, but I thought you'd find this interesting. I genuinely give a shit, not even just about me taking money from you in this transaction, but about you as a human. So it's sales has been, and I did an interview on my show.
It's been dehumanized, which is the problem. It's high volume, dehumanized, transactional bullshit. And that needs to stop now. I've literally dedicated my career to ending this, to putting the nail in the coffin. This belongs a mile underground with whatever founders of Cambridge Analytica ended up after the UN broke them up and they went missing. Probably the same place. That's where it belongs, wherever they went. And it just done, finished. It's over. And it's got to stay over, because this volume, this whole thing from the 90s that led in the early 2000s that we thought was the coolest thing ever, because we can finally we can mass produce something that was once not mass producible. We automated the wrong half of the process. Automating the intelligence behind it to know the direction, the who, the where, the when, all that. That's the important part. and then identifying the individual that is the Bible. All that can be done and automated, like what I've done, because they automated the wrong part: the communication, the outreach, and the relationship building, which nobody builds a relationship with a robot. Robots can't converse or create or anything like that. They can't innovate. They can't add value. That's the thing, is that the one part of sales that will never be replaced by robots has been replaced by robots. And it's about being human is the whole point. That part's human. All of the back end, the research and the analytics, that is the robot. Keep the robot doing what it's good at. Bots were not created, and AI was not created to replace salespeople or replace humans in general. They're created to augment and enhance their ability so that they can do more and more important things that are not just menial tasks that anybody could do with half a brain. We were meant for greater things, destined for greater things. And that's why we should be using automation and AI, not to replace us, to augment us, because things that truly need a human behind it cannot be replaced by a machine. It's not going to happen.
No, that's well said. And I remember being told at the beginning of my career, hey kid, if you get really good at sales, you'll never be without a job. And at face value, that kind of makes sense. But when you start to think about it like that, of okay, automation and AI and blah, blah, blah. And there's a reason the top producers in sales are the top producers in sales. Is it because they mass blast out 400 emails per day to a list of 1,000 contacts? No, they had to start somewhere. But the thing that will never be replaced is that human to human connection, that the relationship building. You can't automate that. There is no way to do that. And that is why, a lot of people fail at sales, is because they don't even realize that that's a component of it, because their university or their enterprise level company just basically says, hey, click a bunch of buttons and shit should happen. And then when it doesn't, they're like, well, this fucking sucks. I'm going to go, back to school and learn a different skill because this is bullshit. They were taught.
Not even just that. It's that expectation is absurd. And people don't even know what the difference between sales and marketing actually is. Mass emails. Salespeople shouldn't be doing that, because that's not selling.
That's not selling.
That is marketing. Mass outreach, creating awareness, like a BDR. A BDR is considered part of the sales team. They are a marketer, a human marketer at that. BDRs are marketers. They're part of the marketing team. People will argue to the death about this, but they are on the marketing team. They're not a salesperson. An SDR is a salesperson. But even still, an SDR, half their job is marketing. Marketing is creating awareness. It's delivering the message. It's advertising the brand or the product or whatever it is. And it is creating the fire. It's the spark to everything. It's creating engagement, excitement about it. It's about augmenting the ideologies or the needs or the desires, or feeding the desires of the people, or driving interest of the people that you potentially could sell to. The salesperson's job is when it just got personal. When it's one-to-one, they actually want to talk to the organization. That is when the sale begins. And the sale ends when they decide they never want to do business with you again. The sale never ends at the close. The close, that's just a chapter. They're now your client. Now you can upsell them. You can cross-sell them. You have to make sure that they're getting value, continuously spending money, because guess what? Your commission relies on that anyway. Oh, that's CS's job. No, CS's job is to make sure that they're using the product properly and that they're happy and everything. But otherwise, it is your job. No, that's the account manager's job. Yeah, sort of. Not really. Does the account manager rely on your commission for their pay? Hell no, they don't. That's the thing. It just doesn't make any sense the way it's set up. The salesperson should be involved in the deal the whole way through, cradle to grave. And the best clients, the clients that you want, that we're desiring. I mean, really, it's not the high churn and burn shit that the VC companies love to just shove down people's throats, where the client's an afterthought. Just bring on more, just bring on more, just bring on more. It doesn't matter. No, what you want, well, what I would want is my client to stay my client until the point where they can leave is when they're in a pine box. That's it. Just to the death. We're in this together to the death. That means that you are driving consistent value over and over and over and over again, and you're innovating in the market, and you're delivering more every single time, where they look back and they go, holy shit, meeting Rob or meeting Nate was the best damn thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, that's well said. I think one of the last things I would say here is you have how there probably people listening to this probably wondering how the hell did this kid go from nothing to a CRO of $1 million business in, a year, 2 years. It's because I was willing to wear a marketing hat, to wear an account manager hat, to wear a CS hat. Like, I
You
understood
got to see all angles, rapid fire.
you absolutely have to. And I think that started back with pinning sales and marketing against each other. And my CMO and I talked about this on our podcast of like, how are you guys so successful so quick? It's because him and I collaborate on fucking everything.
And
Because
that's RevOps. It's de-siloing the marketing, sales, and CS function. They are all of the same. They're there to enable each other, feed each other, and when you collect data, to share that with one another, so you could build strategic marketing content, so you could sell when people actually need to be sold to, so that you can attract people that are actually going to buy your product, not just interested in it, so that you can create offers and special functions or whatever else it may be for the CS team to be able to deliver when they're talking to a client. They're happy, they're successful, they get some sort of bonus. Or if they're not that happy, that they have some sort of offer already prepared to get them where they need to be, or to give them some sort of let's say extra of whatever it is that they're getting, extra value, maybe a free consultation, whatever it may be. Having all those assets moving across, and the salespeople are the only people who know why people buy from them. Because the reason why, when they're excited, they have that huge dopamine release. They just bought this new thing. They're so excited about it. They say, "Oh, well, what are you the most excited about after since you just bought this? Since we're going to be doing business together?" Ask that question. Their unbridled, unfiltered response to that is why they bought from you. That needs to be written and documented in a CRM, so that the marketing team can speak the language of your customers and actually advertise and market the solution that you have, quite literally in the language of and by the words of your actual clients. That is the most powerful thing a marketing team can do. And the most difficult thing is speak the language of the customer so that you can market through their own words.
It has to be, and there has to be that overlap between sales and marketing, because it begins with marketing, it ends air quotes with sales, but it continues with all of you. And they're not going to go from not knowing who the hell you are to being, oh, that's a cool ad, to actually getting on the phone, to actually going through the process, to actually buying from you. If there's any disconnect in that entire chain of events, if there's any disconnect or something's not aligned, they will never close. And you're going to be chasing a deal that, was interested, but once they got on the phone with you, you didn't understand their pain point, which is why they got on here in the first place. So then they're confused and they're like, oh, this company must not have their shit together, because the message I just heard and the guy I'm talking to right now sound like they're telling two different stories. And
unified messaging
who failed that way, because there's no overlap between sales and marketing. And, again, my CMO and I, we meet twice a week, one-on-one. What did you hear in sales conversations? We talk about it. What ads are working? What messaging is working? What's getting engagement? Because people see the marketing, then they talk to me. But after they talk to me, they're continuing to meet the rest of our team. And if nothing is aligned or there's any disconnect in that process, the whole ship falls apart. Those are a cornerstone of what allowed us to be so.
One of the best things is that if someone is inbound, they come to you, salesperson talks to them. If the salesperson doesn't know why they're coming to the meeting, that's a weakness right there. But the main point is, if they ask you, what is it that you do exactly? There's a huge gap in the communication there. If they ask you the question of, well, how would I apply this to my process or my company? That should be a question that was already answered with the content. There is absolutely no excuse for that. That's an issue that I'm even dealing with my company right now. Is that we didn't have the actual tiny little pieces of, oh yeah, this is how we affect ABM. This is how we affect inbound filtering capabilities for leads. This is how we affect all the little tiny chunks. We didn't have that explained. We thought it was obvious enough just as the overview of it and then you'd be able to piece together in your own head, oh, this is how it would affect that and that and that and that. No, this is a stupid assumption of ours. And then also, who do you work with? Well, wait, so would I be using this, or who on my team would be using this solution? That's another unacceptable question.
Yeah, if that's not getting answered, and that is why, again, there has to be overlap, and why I've worn, I could have my title as CRO/marketing specialist, and Nick, our CMO, could be a partial sales director because of how influential we are in what each other do in our day, not only in our day to day, but in the grand scheme of things. Like I mentioned, me and him butt heads on a lot of different things. That's because we're trying to accomplish the same goal from two different perspectives. And when you get those kind of tensions, because there's going to be tensions between sales and marketing. It's healthy. You have to have those. It's just like a fucking relationship. You have to, if you sit there and you're pissed off at your partner all the time and she's pissed off at you, nothing, and you don't talk about it, nothing is going to get accomplished. I'm not saying take relationship advice from me, but what I am saying is you have to think of, especially at a C-suite level, you have to have that open communication. You have to have those tough conversations. Hey, marketing, it's the old, hey, marketing's not working. The leads are shit. Okay. Why are the leads shit? What is our messaging?
Sales has not been providing the data. I solve this all the time. Sales data is the data that you should be using, and it should be tracked well to be able to analyze and understand who it is that you sell to, because marketing has come up with their own persona where they're just driving as much engagement as possible, and they're attracting the people who are interested in the content that they're making the way that they see it. But that content's not resonating with the actual customers. That's not why those people bought. So they're building really engaging, high quality content around the wrong target. So all the leads that they pass are never qualified. They need to build a new persona around who they do business with and who they've failed to do business with, so they can understand and build marketing collateral around the people who are likely to buy from them, to attract those people, not just the people who are like, wow, this is really cool. Okay, then what? Then what? Your only job as a marketer is to ensure that you are feeding the sales team leads that close, period. That is your job.
Yeah.
I don't care if you got 50 million impressions. We didn't close any sales. What the fuck? I don't care how much attention this is getting. That's just building your own ego with how popular your content got. I need to see so rather than getting 10 million impressions, if you had 5,000 impressions that closed 10 deals, I'd rather have that.
100%. And it's the age-old conversation of vanity metrics versus revenue metrics. Which one's more valuable to you? Numbers on a screen are cool. And I mean, we do SEO all the time, and it's like, visitors are great. Would love to send you millions of visitors a month. But what is that going to do if 97% of those are in no way, shape, or form qualified for your business or even interested in what you're offering? Like, you have to get very married to the data, but also to the right data. Because if you're just looking at, marketing reached this many people per month in our Facebook campaigns, or, we posted 50 pieces of content this week on LinkedIn. Cool. Awesome. What happened on the back end of that? How many people, said this was valuable and then actually reached out or shared this and said, check out what these guys are doing? Because there's ways to look at it that aren't directly related to revenue, in the sense of like a share of a podcast, for example. It doesn't cost any money to do it, but it's basically saying without saying, hey, this is fucking valuable enough for me to, spend my goldfish level attention span to not only listen to it, but then say, oh, other people are going to find this valuable too, so let me share it. And those are what you want to be. Listens on a podcast are great. I mean, it's fucking awesome to look at. But how many people are sharing it, spreading that message, or even just a message to you saying, hey, this was fucking valuable. This changed my perspective on this. And it's not written, that's not a business example, but same thing goes for business. You want to look at who is engaging with your content, but more importantly, how many people are actually coming through your funnel and saying, hey, I've seen you online for 6 months. I've never liked a post ever, but I've seen it. Now I'm at the point where, I want to take you up on that free assessment you're always pushing, or that free consultation that I always see on your LinkedIn. I want to take you up on that. It has nothing to do with how many likes I gave you or anything. It has to do with you were top of mind, you were present. Now I made the decision that I am ready to fucking talk to you, and now on my terms, I'm going to engage the conversation. And none of that would be possible if sales and marketing weren't connected, if sales didn't have a consultative sales approach versus just spamming shit down their fucking throat. And more importantly, if the right people weren't running those teams. And I think a lot of people that are realizing this new way of doing sales, doing marketing that you and I are talking about are millennials.
Yeah, generally, yeah. Couple Gen Xers that I know that are too, but those far and few between. And I'm not ageist by any means whatsoever. No. I have at my company employees between the age of 24 to 70. Yeah. So there's a whole gamut right there because we need everybody to think differently from different generations. So from Gen Z all the way to Boomer. You know, it's just the way it should be. Nice mix, different points of view, different value to provide. Now, this is like the end of the podcast, though. Sorry to tell you, but I want everybody to. So I have two questions for you. Number one, if everyone were to forget everything we just talked about right now, and you wanted them to walk away remembering one thing that they should apply to their business or their life, what would it be?
Yeah. Give the millennials a chance, because a lot of you probably, just wrote them off strictly because of bias. And I mean, I get that. I've had people say, I thought you were full of shit because I had a presupposition of what I expected somebody who looks like you to be like. And then they had the conversation and everything changed. So especially the business owners listening to this, maybe you've had a bad experience. There's certainly bad apples out there, but take more opportunities, take the risk, because either way, you're going to have to find somebody to fill that position. And you could find somebody for the short term who's going to give a job done. Cool. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with somebody just coming in looking to pay the bills. But what you could also find is the person who not only are you going to change their life by giving them an opportunity, but they are going to change your life because of how committed they are going to be to not only your business, but you as a person, because you gave them that opportunity.
Yeah. And again, back to the tips that we gave on how to detect those type of people, how to source them, what you should be looking for. If you need to listen to the podcast over and over again, that section, do it, because that's something you shouldn't forget. That's actually something that I probably haven't told anybody before about stuff like that. Same thing with you, maybe in some ways, but it's that is so valuable, and it's coming straight from like unfiltered, uncut mind of two millennials who made it to the top, that have that type of drive. Look for it. You can find it. You just need to know how to look for it. Now, second question is, where's the best place for people to find you or get in touch with you?
Yeah. So if you're looking to have just a genuine conversation or connect with me, I'm pretty active on Instagram. Just search me up there, Nate, Natex Sroor, Sroor. Also feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Nate Sroor. I have the little brain emoji next to my name. If you want to talk to me for business purposes, or just say, hey, I've got a website. I don't know if it's shit or not. I want somebody with an outside perspective to tell me. Go to pneumallc.co. That's PNEUMA LLC.co. Book a free assessment. Goes right to me. Happy to chat with you as soon as we possibly can.
Awesome. So thank you, everybody. Again, this podcast is brought to you by White Rabbit Intel, where we help you hyper target the people who fit and enable you to know who your next best customers are going to be, inside or outside the funnel, meaning before totally cold, ice cold, or even when they're warm, anytime throughout that whole process. You just know who your opportunities are. Thank you, everybody. And anybody sharing this, please use hashtag DTRH podcast. And you can find this podcast at podcasts.whiterabbitintel.com. You can also find it on virtually literally every single streaming application in existence, including iHeartRadio or that random one called Deezer. It's literally everywhere. You can watch the video on YouTube, or you can go on whiterabbitintel.com/blog. They're all listed right there. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great night. If you enjoyed this episode, follow Down the Rabbit Hole podcast for new episodes weekly on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora, and YouTube. If you'd like to apply to be featured on the podcast or recommend a featured guest, please feel free to email us at theteam@whiterabbitintel.com.